haze levels reached a record high in Singapore. Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong announced today that it's setting up a haze interministerial committee. There'll be daily briefings and healthcare subsidies for the vulnerable. On an international front, officials are meeting with their Indonesian counterparts for an emergency haze meeting to work something out. But is there any way out of this cyclical problem? And how do you protect you and your family if you're living in Malaysia, Thailand, or Indonesia and facing the same haze problem? Please call us and join us on the program. We can be reached at +65 6691 0028, or you can tweet us at TP Vote with your views. My guests joining me on the program tonight, Singapore Environment Minister Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan joins us. We're also joined on the extreme right of your screens, Dr. Loo Chian Min, who's Deputy Chair of the Haze Advisory Panel. And in the centre of your screens, Mr. Simon Tay, Chairman of the Singapore Institute of International Affairs. Gentlemen, thank you all for joining us. Simon, actually, I'll start with you. In 2011, during a Bangkok meeting on the transboundary haze pollution situation, there was a suggestion for pushing for the enforcement of laws limiting transboundary haze. What's the progress been since then?
Well, frankly, I think there's so much anger in Singapore and Malaysia that people want to see suing, law enforcement, and Indonesia actually has enough laws on the books. But the challenge, I think, is to realize that, I'm saying this as a law professor, there's a limit to what law can do. There are things that Jakarta can say and mean, but which may not be effective on the ground in a province. Furthermore, if they're not minded to do it, in international law, there are very few avenues of which Singapore or Malaysia or anybody else can really take the Indonesian government to task. So in a sense, like it or not, we've got to seek cooperation as the key aspect of the way ahead.
Minister, your take on that, bring you in on this.
No, I agree totally with Simon. At the end of the day, these are two sovereign countries. Indonesia has its own laws, has its own enforcement system, its own investigative capability. Singapore is a close neighbor, a victim of transboundary haze. But the key to solving this is action on the ground. And we need effective action on the part of the Indonesians. Identify the companies, deter the companies from slash and burn on an industrial scale of deforestation. And equally important, in our relationship between Singapore and Indonesia, it's got to be based on mutual respect and cooperation. And that is a partnership, because at the end of the day, remember, it's not just Singaporeans who are suffering. There are Indonesians in Riau, in Jambi, who are also exposed to even much higher levels than we are.
You talked about effective identification on the ground.
Yes.
If we're experiencing the haze levels that we are, 371, and which it was this afternoon, does that mean it hasn't been effective on the ground?
I would say it's not enough. It's not enough to deter these companies, because you see, it's not traditional slash and burn which is the problem. This is industrial scale deforestation in order for oil palm plantations. So these are large companies clearing land, huge swathes of land. That's why this problem has arisen over the last 2 decades. And that's why it's also such a chronic, recurrent problem.
Okay.